Welcome to another episode of We're Not Wizards. I'm your host, Richard, and this is a special work in progress edition, and it's going to be called Don't Be Underestimated in the Battle Between Heaven and Hell. Now, I know why, and you will know why. So joining me tonight from Underestimated Games is Gary and Aidan. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you two this evening? Are you well?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Good. Are you comfy and cosy?
I'm snuggled up on the couch, ready to go.
That's good. You got a nice little rug and a cup of cocoa and everything like that.
Oh, the open fire's roaring.
That's fantastic. Now, we're here today to talk about Purgatory, which is your Kickstarter game, which is going to be launching in October. Is that correct?
That's right, yes.
Good stuff, good stuff. So, as always, before we jump into this, the reason that we do this is because there's quite simply not enough podcasts about board games. And there's quite simply not enough podcasts by, well, there's usually two people, but we've got three people on tonight, so we've broken the rule already. So, guys, obviously this is a new venture. It's an exciting venture for you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you got into the kind of the board gaming hobby? Gary, if you want to start off and tell us how you got into all things cardboard and miniatures and stuff like that.
So basically, I can remember my first model. I can remember where I bought it as well. Back at high school, I'm 36 now, and I remember going into what was Deveraux at the time. They had a Games Workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a Longfang Space Wolf model, which is the old lead with like a massively oversized sort of gun on its shoulder. I still have the model somewhere, though I think it's looking a bit better. It has some better days anyway.
It's worth a bit of money now. Do you keep it all nice and safe, or is it?
Not with the layers of paint it's got on that bad boy.
Does it look like a mummy?
Yeah, a little bit.
As opposed to any kind of space wolf.
No, not anymore. But I mean, it sort of triggered something in me that I'd sort of at the time I was sort of going through school and stuff, and I found it quite interesting, and I sort of picked a few more bits and pieces up basically, and eventually kind of collected my own sort of force. And I found it tough actually through school because I think with modern day it's more acceptable to play board games and do that kind of thing, whereas back then it wasn't so much. So I kind of dropped off it for a bit. And then I picked it back up again. I used to travel on the train quite often. I picked up the White Dwarf, and there was a Space Wolf supplement in there, and I just saw these new models and thought, wow, I like these. I'm gonna go back and have a little look. And at that time, actually, I had a lot going on, and just in terms of moving to a new house and everything else. So it served as a really nice hobby, really, to sort of get me back into doing something that was something I could do at home, and it was at the time kind of low cost, if you know what I mean.
That's good. What about you, Aidan? How did you get involved in this fabulous expanding hobby?
Well, to be honest with you, essentially, I remember, like when Gary says, I remember going to Deveraux and playing sort of the Space Hulk and all of that sort of the basic games. But over time, to be honest, I moved away from the tabletop gaming and more into computer gaming. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I sort of bring to the team. One of the things we wanted to do was sort of marry some of the things that they have in computer gaming and also traditional board gaming, and bring it so a tabletop game can be more openly accessed by different people.
So with you now being involved in Purgatory, have you started to dabble a bit more in kind of board games now yourself?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've looked at things like Malifaux, and a few other different. I mean, I go along to the games clubs and watch the guys sort of play. I haven't actually sort of gone in hard myself, but I can see like where the mechanics work and how interesting and how things sort of have changed. I really like the idea of the smaller sort of skirmish stuff, which is why we've gone for that kind of thing, rather than the sort of old school where you had these huge armies that look difficult to manage, if you know what I mean.
Cool.
What is quite funny, I'll just quickly say something, is that just by our own admission, we did go to the Monopoly Grand Tournament.
Yes, we did, yeah.
It was
because I collect limited edition Monopolies. So
and we'd played it since we were kids, and we had bragging rights. The three of us, Aidan's younger brother.
You collect limited edition Monopolies.
Yes, yeah, I've got about 30 or 40 sealed editions plus a number of open, even rarer editions. I mean, I'm lucky enough to hold one of the copies of Ghettopoly, which I encourage yourself and all your listeners to have a little look at. The Wikipedia page on that is a very interesting read about a guy who essentially decided he was going to design his own game. He didn't have any of the clearance from Waddington's, etc. And he sold many copies and then got heavily
you got sued,
crunched.
did he?
Heavily crunched, yes. But
See,
it's a gold mine, you can imagine. There aren't many complete copies around, and certainly none that are sealed.
Do you have it sealed, and do you keep it somewhere special at all?
That one specifically I don't have sealed, but a lot of mine are still sealed, yeah.
See, you just have to wait a second, and then the real board gamer person just appears from nowhere.
It was hyper competitive at this tournament. There were 4 of us that went to Norwich, and there was like a Monopoly bus, and Aidan's got some Monopoly trainers and a Monopoly coat, and we went along to this thing, and the results were interesting, and it was quite fun because it was speed Monopoly, so there was people crying foul and all
questionable
sorts.
rules. Yeah.
So quick Monopoly question for you then. Okay,
Mm.
when all the fines are collected and they're put in the middle,
Yes.
and people land on free parking,
Yes.
are they allowed to take the money from the fines in the middle?
It does depend on what set of rules you're playing.
House rules.
This is not what I was looking for.
The house rules say yes, they take all the money,
Right. Okay.
and that is what I would prefer to play as a general rule. But
So
competition rules say no.
So is this like kind of like when you play pool, and you get the argument round the table? It's like, well, do you play 2 shots carry, mate?
That's exactly it. You've
Is
nailed
that what it is?
That's exactly what it
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
He says it's 2 shot carry. We don't play 2 shots carry, do you? Missed his first shot, didn't he?
Yeah. House
Off the
rule.
table.
House rule. Yeah.
Is there like a meta game? There must be, isn't there? I mean, there must be people that have an entire strategy to say, they go like that, he's taking Old Kent Road. That's it, game's over. Is it like chess?
Do you know what? These boys done that.
Yeah.
Aidan told me about it. So then I told the other boys about it, and then before you know it, these lot are like distributing like these recommendations and what you should and shouldn't do about how you should, what colours to go for and everything else. And I think everyone deep down has got their sets that have sort of seen them right. You know, I quite like the pink set and the orange set. They always seem to do me well. And funnily enough, I won with the pinks and the oranges.
I always ended up getting Old Kent Road in that set, and then on the other side hitting Monopoly. So what would happen is they'd land on Mayfair and Park Lane?
Park Lane, yeah.
And they'd land on that and they'd be like, what? And then they pass their goal, so they get their 200 and they think they're safe. And then they land on Old Kent Road on the other side and I just hit them again. Just smack them down.
Quick 400. I'll have my 400 from a hotel on Old Kent, please.
Oh, this is fascinating. I'm really interested because normally the conversation about Monopoly is, so you played Monopoly as a kid, yes. Did everybody have big fights? Yes. Did everybody cheat? Yes. Did you have fallings out with your sister? Yes. Did somebody rip up cards? Yes. Kind of thing. And this is a whole new area. This is people that's keeping Monopoly alive.
Do you know what was brilliant? We had, because Aidan's younger brother used to play it, so it used to be me, Aidan and his younger brother.
Yeah.
And watching the dynamics between those two was like, I used to just rub my hands with glee because they just constantly wanted to outdo each other. And I'd just literally swoop in, just sneak in the back door and win the game because they were arguing like hell.
Is it like watching kind of like 2 grandmasters at chess? Kind of like, oh, he's got a station. Yeah, he's got electric. He's got a utility company though. Oh no! Look, he's just won second prize in a beauty contest. I remember when we used to play that in my house, and my dad used to come up with the same joke, which was like, "Aye, first prize went to the pig, eh?" Every single time, even if you played 2 games in a Monopoly on the trot, it was the same joke all the way through. So, moving on. Okay, and the last question is car, hat, dog, or iron?
Dog.
None of the above. It's always the ship in the original version. The ship. The ship.
You've just taken me into a whole new world that I want to find out more about. We're going to put some links on to Monopoly, you know. I mean, we might even we might not do a Monopoly special, I can't promise.
We want to know.
This is potentially a whole other podcast. There'll be folk that will be tuning in and going, right, I was here to listen to Purgatory, and they've been going on about Pass and Go for the last 20 minutes now. What's going on with this? Well, I'm going to turn this off. I thought we were talking about board games. Obviously, with you getting involved in the design stuff, you know, the both of you, and you starting to kind of getting back into it, or, you know, in your case, kind of Gary, not kind of keeping it going. Are there games that you two are like playing at the moment, or is it all kind of concentrating on the Purgatory side of things?
What kind of happened is I found my way back into Games Workshop stuff, and I joined a group which it kind of still exists, called Platoon Britannica, and it was a group set up after there's an event called Golden Demon at the Warhammer stuff, and there was, I think, a lot of Spanish people, a lot of Italian people had done really well in the UK competitions, and a group of really good painters in the UK basically set up this group to find the best painters in the UK and to actually try and compete. So we done that, and actually I won a Golden Demon.
Wow, okay.
And with a duel I done, and there's a few of us now that are really fast friends that meet quite regularly to talk about the hobby, either via putty and paint or Call Me or Not. And there's a big community around it, and there's some good friends from it. So, you know, I carried on playing. You know, I won the first ever Kill Team event at Games Workshop. And I've won some Best Painted. I've won got some placings at grand tournaments and stuff like that. So I kind of stuck with Games Workshop for a long time, and then I think they.
Did you ever work there? Did you ever consider getting like a part-time job or working there for a while? No.
No, they had this thing where the second you walked in the door, they had to try and sell you something. And,
I noticed that. That's what I always put. This is what I was going to ask, because the culture in there was, I think it was the first hard sell kind of place I'd ever walked into, where people didn't, because people usually follow me about places thinking I'm going to steal something. You know, I've got that one. I've got that kind of face. You know, I can't go in anywhere expensive. I end up like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. You know, people just go, you know, I'm just going, so how much is this tuna? And they're like, no, I don't think you want that tuna. It's like, well, it says on the shelf it's 79 pence. No, I don't think you want that tuna. I think you maybe want to go to the tuna shop down the street, kind of thing. So, and so I was always used to kind of like not, you know, getting followed in. But then what happened is they trying to engage you in some kind of conversation. And I remember there was a Games Workshop in Edinburgh on the Royal Mile. And used to go in it, and the first time it's kind of wondrous, because usually retail places, and this is going to sound awful, but normally retail places, usually guy-focused retail places, kind of generally leave you alone. Because if a guy's going in for a set of something, he just goes up to the counter and says, right, I'm having these jeans, they're size 36, I'll take them. And they don't expect any customer service. I'm walking into Games Workshop, and this guy's following me about, and I goes, oh, here we go. I'll be asked to empty my bags out or something like that. And he says, so you in here for anything special? And it was looking at it was when Advanced Space Crusade was out, and Games Workshop, White Dwarf had been starting to release the kind of little expansion scenarios in the magazine. So I was I was getting some orcs, basically. And this guy approached me, and it was really scary to have somebody not only try to have a conversation with me, but try and, you know, get me to buy all these things.
Do you know what's great about them as well is that, and you know, there's a certain degree of gentle stigma that applies, because these people come and approach you and try and talk to you, but actually some of them are the most socially awkward people in the world.
You can imagine the staff meeting in the morning. Guys, what we gonna do? Remember, it's eyes and smiles and teeth and most of all confidence. Try confidence.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
Kevin, stop picking your nose, Kevin. Confidence, Kevin. No, don't wipe it in your sleeve, Kevin. Now remember, it's a special 10% off and you get a bonus if whoever sells the most Urukai orcs as well. So,
Absolutely.
so that's what it is. But God bless them. That's what I say.
Well, it got me into the hobby, and I'm still, as much as I don't necessarily sort of go for everything Games Workshop now, I've got a bit of a blend, and obviously we're doing our own thing. But I still make a point of going in there and seeing the local resident Jeff and just chatting to him from time to time, because he's a decent guy, and actually he's almost like leveled up. He doesn't approach you now anymore.
He just stares at you.
He's he just comes and talks to you and says, is there anything you need? No, right, let's have a chat. How you doing? So
it wasn't even that at the time. It was the fact that somebody goes up and you just come up and sidle up to you like this, and they would just come closer, and closer, and then they would go, it's the elders that you want, and closer to some ultramarines, and then they'd step away like you were going to turn round and maybe lamp them one.
It's bad when you kind of sense somebody near you rather than see them first.
Exactly, but no, that's not fair in Games Workshop. They built an entire business.
Oh, they're excellent.
Basically, and they are obviously kind of very, very good at what they do. So in terms of other board games, is there anything else you guys are thinking about playing, you'd like to play, you'd like to get your hands on, or is it all just Purgatory up to the eyeballs at the moment?
There's a bit of a mix, to be honest. We have I set a games club up with a friend called Legion, and there's all sorts of games that play there. So you can see Bushido, Malifaux, you'll see Hordes, sort of Warmer Hordes. You see traditional Games Workshop games. You see some of the new Arkham games from the Night Models Batman stuff.
Oh, yeah.
There's all sorts that goes on, and then like for example, there was Arkham Horror at the weekend, which is a board game the guys were playing. You see Zombicide sometimes as well. So there's a wide range of games that get played at the club, and you kind of get to see and sort of feel lots of other different bits and pieces, and there's such a broad depth. Yeah, absolutely. There's a real depth of games.
And Aidan, have you been tempted to kind of jump on yourself and maybe get a bit involved in the hobby since you've been working on it, or are you still, give me my Overwatch and I'm happy?
To be honest, like I said, I think because my opinion's been changed from these huge sort of uncontrollable games to these much more intricate sort of small, maybe 8, 10, 12 models on a side kind of battles. I've been spending a lot of time at the game club, and I am seeing things and going, oh, that looks interesting, but because we're spending so much time obviously like playing Purgatory and just making sure all the rules work perfectly and all the game testing and all that kind of stuff, and with all the other stuff I've got on, work and family life and stuff, I haven't got time for something else yet. But I am tempted by a lot of the skirmishy
You're tempted to have
stuff.
like a little rest and then say, okay, let's see what this Mysterium kind of thing is all about, and let's jump into Seven Wonders and get some Catan going, things like that. Once we've rested, of course. But this is the thing, because of you are doing a Kickstarter, and the Kickstarter is probably taking up a lot of your time. So this is this is the question that I've got written down, which I obviously don't have written down because, as you know, I started taking notes 2 minutes before we press record. What? And that's the worst way a person could say whatever. What kind of made you go from, say, playing the games to thinking, actually, we could put something ourselves together? When was that moment when you were, you had that moment to say, for goodness sake, Gary, I don't know about you, but if I don't make some kind of skirmishy type miniature game, I'm going to hurt somebody. When did you get involved in that?
What happened is I'd been working with some friends on something quite similar, and then I sort of stepped away from it. And I kind of thought to myself, when the worst thing you can do is say to me, you can't do that, because I'll try my damnedest to prove you bloody wrong.
Yeah.
And I kind of was on the way home, and I remember thinking to myself, do you know what? There's not many nice angel models about. I'd really like to do like a nice conversion. And then I got to thinking, well, why don't I make my own? Right. And then my brain just launched into overdrive, and I didn't have the capacity to kind of capture it all, but I got some of it out the other end. And I literally just thought, do you know what? I'm going to go and explore this a little bit. And the more I sort of delved into it, and the more I thought, actually, why don't I just create my own model, not just a set of wings?
Yeah.
And I started writing ideas down, and then I went on to DeviantArt, a place where artists post their work, and I just put a little advert out and said, look, anyone up for making this? And the response we got was just overwhelming. Everyone wanted to have a little go on this. So I mean, obviously it's paid work, so but
artists don't get paid work. You see, the amount of people that get offered to do work for exposure, in inverted commas, kind of thing. Oh, if you do this, you'll get exposure, and you'll kind of see it. You kind of see it all the time. So you advertise for some artists, and you got a million kind of eager volunteers. How did you decide from there who you were going to use?
Do you know what? It was we got some really good feedback actually. At this point, Aidan wasn't on board. I kind of just I was just doing it by myself, just sort of pottering around, and I got really lucky when I put my advert out. I was really quite vague, and I asked people to PM me, and the real positive feedback we got is a sort of we think we've got a good sort of ethos about us, or a good ethic, and I replied to every single person. And told them why I liked them or why I didn't like them, and we got really lucky. There's a lady called Lorenzo who works with us. She's from Canada, and she worked on the Kingdom Death project.
Oh right, okay.
And she was really keen to work with us. And we found another guy called Deveraux, and we just I just got some stuff done. And our first character was Siren. And I just happened to be Aidan just said to me, because we've been best friends since I was 15, and I was just said to him, he said, "What are you always up to? What are you always scribbling stuff down? What are you doing? Exactly. What is going on over there?
What's with that notepad?
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing with that putty? Put down that paintbrush."
Exactly like that. And so I said, "Well, look, I can tell you if you want, and we can take it from there." And I told him, and he was interested straight away. And he just said, "I'm up for this. Can I be a part of it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, cool." And from that point onwards, we talked about bits and pieces. We have a unique sense of humour, something that has permeated into Purgatory. So, like our first faction, for example, is there's some very loose references to Eddie Murphy's stand-up in there.
Which one, the Red Raw one then, or something?
Delirious.
Oh right, okay.
So and we done this, and it's just developed from there. First of all, it's going to be a range of models, and then we said, what, actually we can make a game. We can do this. We've got the experience. We've got the and it's just we've just developed it from that point on, and it's become a project. I mean, I do that day to day as a day job. I'm a project manager of certain type. So we kind of then said, okay, so where do we want this to go? What's the end game? And then we embarked on what is now Purgatory, which is getting quite substantive.
Well, I think every kind of board gamer that's into the hobby, they have that one board game inside them that they would want to make, and it's just a question of whether or not you decide to kind of take it further. So, how long ago was it you got started then? Has this been a couple of years, a couple of months? Tuesday?
We've got a lot done since Tuesday. Last February was when we started up. So not this February this year, to February 2015, and it was a slow burner. It was just literally chucking money at buying some artwork and sort of seeing where that took us, and then we started making faction stuff, and then we kind of grew, and we went to Salute, which is the Games Expo in London, by South London War Games, and we went to see how we would get on. It was kind of like a benchmark for us, or like a gateway to say, do we have any popularity? Are we doing something right here? Are we hitting the mark? And because getting exposure is actually probably the hardest thing. Yeah. And actually, we found that we were. With the feedback we got was phenomenal. We couldn't believe it. When you stand there and you have a brain fart, a few months back, and you're just thinking about making some angel wings, and then the guy just comes up to your stand and says, "Oh, there you are. I've been looking for you. I've come to buy this." and you just kind of go, "Wow."
What was that? That must have been a kind of a wonderful moment. I think if you're a creator, everybody kind of, that first bit of recognition that you get is kind of very, very important, because you're like kind of thinking, kind of potentially could be doing something right here. So that's quite good. In terms of the game itself. Do you want to explain to me do you want to explain to the listeners as well a little bit of background to it, how it what it's about, how it kind of works and things like that?
So yeah, sure. The world of Purgatory is it's set around the war for heaven. Okay, so I went to a Church of England school at primary school, and I sort of knew the Bible pretty well. I have my grandma and granddad are quite religious. That doesn't mean to say that I'm heavily influenced by it, but I have a good sort of foundation of an understanding. Yeah. And that was with the angels kind of thing. I thought about it, and then I looked at events in time, and I thought, what can I do? And I found the war for heaven, and the war for heaven in terms of the Bible kind of happens at the same kind of time as the height of the Egyptian pharaohs and the Chinese dynasties.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, do you know what? Actually, I don't want to do heaven and hell, because actually, when you start talking about religion, you have to be very, very careful and respectful, because that's quite important to some people.
Yeah, I don't think you can just tread on somebody's toes just because you're trying to be creative.
Absolutely not. No,
you never know who you don't want to try and go out your way to kind of potentially offend people as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing we took from it. So instead we said, well, okay, well, if there's a war for heaven, what happened in heaven? And we started exploring. So the background for the war for heaven is basically the gods are basically just bicker amongst themselves. They're always trying to fight as to who's the best, and because they're all gods, no one can actually physically prove who's the best because they're technically all equal. Yeah. So one night after a few drinks, they kind of got together and said, look, tell you what. The best way to do it is not to judge it upon ourselves, but judge it upon others. So let's judge it upon our creations. Yeah. So they all gave themselves a canvas and said, now we're going to create life. I'm going to create worlds, and sort of we've created this event where they can prove basically who's the greatest. So they set about their great works, and then God's being a bit sort of the way they weren't really interested. So they kind of made angels, and they made a heaven as a guardian. So basically each canvas is a realm. Yeah. And within the realm are galaxies and planets and different types of races and whatnot. And then the heaven is basically the anchor, and it's like a gateway. It's like a defense mechanism. They are in charge of that realm, and they are there to make it grow, and they are there to police it. Certainly, the gods didn't care. And then we created this thing called the Celestial Games, where the way the gods would demonstrate who was better is they would have these barbaric games, basically, a bit like good old-fashioned gladiatorial or come Olympics. Yeah. And then the one who got to 101 victories in the games would be the god who was clearly the best at creation because they'd done that. And then we kind of said, okay, now we've got some deeper background. Let's focus on what Purgatory is. So Satan was the angel in command of the seventh realm. So we're basically saying there that the humans weren't the first. We're not the last. Actually, we've just been looked over. We're not important. We're not that great. There are races and beings out there much greater than us. And the way we've said it is that where a realm falls into chaos or it devolves or anything else like that. Basically, we call it a hell. So a hell is a designation. A heaven is a designation. It's a place. So a heaven is somewhere that guards a realm, and a hell is a heaven that's just been overrun by the realm, and the realm is just now you avoid it at all costs kind of thing.
Okay.
And then so what happened is basically Satan tried to get the seventh realm to be one of the places the gods was illuminated by the gods' light. And they kind of just said, look, no matter what you do, the stuff in this realm just isn't good enough. You need to accept it. You're not going to be one of the chosen. And he didn't like that. And he kept trying to prove them wrong. And eventually they just turned their back on him and kind of just cast him adrift. And then this is where some of the traditional elements come into it, where like actually he was bitter and twisted about it. And then he said, well, okay, if you don't want the heaven, I'll be a god of my own heaven. I'll control heaven. Yeah. And then the great schism broke out where angel would fight angel, and where Satan would make his play. And And then we kind of tied in our character Siren quite nicely, because she was kind of banished from heaven, and then she saw it all unfold, and she shimmer shifted. We call that's like a teleportation thing, where she appeared in front of the gods, and she told them what was happening. And then, you know, sort of Saint Michael, the greatest of all the archangels, sort of turned up, and then the war for heaven really began, and the fallen angels were kicked out, and they were scattered through the realm. And a lot of them landed on Earth, which is where we pick up the story about where humans enter it. They kind of went into hiding, and you know, they didn't even communicate with each other for fear of sort of, you know, someone just sort of dropping them in it, or, you know, like being underhanded or whatever. And they started to manipulate humans. You know, a lot of the wars are a result of angels just trying to manipulate humans and everything else. And eventually the angels just came out and said, right, we're here. They revealed themselves, and they just basically tried to enslave the human populace, and take it for their own. Although each angel has different agendas. Some want to see it sort of smashed and ruined. Yeah. But St. Peter, for example, he doesn't want to do that. Actually, he wants to just be like a big kingpin. He wants to kind of rule it as a king, kind of thing.
Organised crime.
That kind of stuff. So
you've put this all together out of your head. Because it sounds like it's a cohesive kind of plot here and description here and everything like that as well. It's obviously tied into what you've learned at school and things like that, but you've got a definite... Because I looked through the rules, and there's kind of like, there's flavour text there, there's information there, and it sounds like you guys have been sitting down and you've fully talked this out with what's happened and how the game has ended up where it is. So, in terms of where are we now? What's happening at now? What is causing these characters to kind of battle each other? Then where are we with that?
The big thing we had is that, you know, you touched on it there, and we wanted to. One of the big things we want to try and convey to people is actually we have depth.
It's a world, isn't it? We've created a world with, like you said, from within our minds, but with some traditional elements as well. So, and we want people to understand that although we're going to produce a wonderful game, we're already producing high quality art and high quality models. We also want the longevity and the backstory. We want people to buy into the world, not just the game.
There's heavy Games Workshop influences, because of one thing. No matter whatever you say about the other kind of parts of Games Workshop, one of the things it's been fantastic at is building the worlds in which its games are based around. And take this as either a compliment or a horrific insult, and the line will just go, "Drink, the other person has hung up." That you're going for world building before you go for kind of like the game itself, which is very, very impressive.
Something we learned, or something that I certainly thought about a great deal, is that I've noticed that people buy Kickstarters and they get excited by them, and then they get all animated by them, and there's this big rush for it, and then they grab it and they play it, and then it goes on the shelf, and then that's it. And we didn't want that. We wanted to try and bring back something a bit. It's a unique spin on something quite traditional. We want people to make friends through gaming again. Yeah, I've made a lot of friends through gaming. Some of my best friends. Yeah. And actually, you can't do that if the game has a very short lifespan. So what we've done is, the reason we've created this. We've already got like nearly 70 characters. They have rules. They have personalities.
I've seen a lot of them, and they're very, very impressive. You're right. The artwork is very, very good, and some of the models that you've been seeing, because I've obviously been looking at your page, are very, very impressive as well.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And we want to, you know, we know what Phase 2 is. Phase 2 is Satan and Michael. So Phase 1 doesn't include them, but there is a Phase 2 already. So we want to give people something to look forward to. But in terms of the character in the game itself, again, we wanted to give people a world where they could immerse themselves in a game and they could relate to people. Mm-hmm. But we have a couple of USPs that we believe really adds something quite unique to our game in terms of how you play it, how you buy the game, and how you interact. So I can tell you about those later if you want.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the basic mechanics of the game, what would you describe it as? I mean, this is what people will be, I guess, first of all looking at buying decisions. If you were kind of summing up what Purgatory is about, what would you say it is?
It's instantly recognisable, but uniquely different.
Okay.
I think a lot of Kickstarting companies, or a lot of just games companies, I don't want to sort of tarnish Kickstarters, is they say we must be different. We have to do something that nobody has done before. Yeah. And I think they apply that principle to the whole thing rather than aspects of it. Okay. So whereas like so I can give you some examples in like, so we have a traditional D6 system. It works, people know it, and they can familiarise themselves with it very, very quickly, which means they can play a game quickly. We don't want Purgatory to be a chore. We want Purgatory to be fun.
So it's a case of how many... I mean, the base mechanics are you pick a couple of characters aside and then you fight off, or...
That's one of our USPs. One of the things that this is a personal thing, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, is I used to go into a shop, it doesn't matter which, a model store, and I used to pick up a box and go, wow, I really like that guy in the middle, but I don't want to pay 50 quid for the other 4.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've created these factions, these cohorts where there's a host, and then what we've said is actually anybody can go with anybody.
Oh, right, okay. Well,
so there's a benefit. Yeah. There's a benefit for you having like the Angel of the Soul Train and the cohort Soul Train, because you get in-game benefits. But actually, if you don't want those, and actually you just like 6 cool characters that they really appeal to you, you can go and buy those 6 characters individually, which means you haven't got to spend a lot of money in one go. And then there's like a mercenary points cost that allows you to just find your own synergies.
Mix and match effectively. What you mean by Soul Train is you've got different factions of characters. They all belong to, like, it seems like different factions. So I believe Soul Train's one of them, and they've got different characters that are involved in that. And what you're saying is you can take characters from that faction and you can mix and match them with other characters, as long as you might have to pay, or it might cost you additional points in order to group certain people together. Is that
exactly? Exactly right.
Okay. So how many? If I'm facing off, I'm playing Colin, okay, and I wouldn't play Colin because he would absolutely destroy me. I've heard of his attempts at playing Frostgrave, and he doesn't just decimate the other player. He effectively steals their lunch money and leaves them crying in the corner. So say I am decided I'm probably drunk or being very silly. Decide, Colin, come on, let's go for it. How many characters would I get on my team?
It rather much depends. Typically, you'd get 7. So the way that it has to work, you have a prerequisite of a host. You have to have an apostle and a prophet, and then after that, you can pick and choose. However, just a little sneaky, sort of light word in there that might be coming is that the Apocalypse faction, for example, the 4 Horsemen, you can only have 3 at a time because they're that powerful.
Well, that's pretty cool. Well, that would be cool. And then you just basically face off. Yeah. And then it's whoever wipes the other person out.
Well, there's a number of scenarios. It's not as basic as that. We have 7 basic scenarios, and then a number of what we call public holiday scenarios.
Oh, right, okay.
Which like range
Christmas and Easter.
You've got it. So essentially,
Halloween.
All Hallows Eve, I think is it one of ours?
One of the things we do is this is an underpinning mechanism within our organisation. We take something and we look at it, and then we tip it upside down and we change it. Oh, so, for example, Peter's a good example. That's St. Peter, the host angel. St. Peter, when you picture him, he's the little bald guy that sits outside the gates of heaven and says, "You shall not pass," in a Gandalf-esque way.
I'm not doing more Gandalf impersonations. We did Gandalf impersonations two shows ago, and it almost destroyed the podcast. So there's no more Gandalf. I'll stop recording right now, boys.
Okay, we won't.
Either of you even say you shall not. Go on then. If you
No
want
more
to.
of he or shall not be named.
You can say it if you want.
But so we looked at him and went, okay, so what other scenarios in life would you find somebody that doesn't let you in? And we said, well, let's make St. Peter a nightclub bouncer.
There you go.
So you found it straight away, and the same thing applies with some of our scenarios. Like we have a scenario where instead of dying, nobody's allowed to die. What happens is when a model or a character dies, you roll 3d6 and the scatter dice, you reposition that model there, and you go again. And the person that kills the most amount of models at the end of the game wins. So you've literally, the whole game long, you've got your full complement of models. So you just have what would you probably consider to be, on the PS2 Destruction Derby, where you're just driving around in the car and smashing everyone up.
So it is like Overwatch then.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You just you roll a spawn point, you spawn back in, and you're always kind of in the game.
Yeah.
Which is good, because I have seen tears before bedtime when people have been wiped out when they're 3/4 of the way into their game and there's no way that they can win back. And all they're doing is they're then spending the next 45 minutes in a damage limitation exercise.
Yeah.
And all they're doing is they're just getting... If they get lucky with the dice, they're fine. If they don't get lucky with the dice, they're just, their defeat is just... It's going to be absolutely horrible. So your attempt is to say, right, guys, if you're going to play Purgatory for 3 hours, you're going to play Purgatory for 3 hours. And there's and you have your starting point, you have your finishing point, and then at the end of that, you tot up your points, and the winner gets a microwave. No?
Absolutely. Or a
you heard
speed
that
bump.
here, guys. That's on record now. Gary and Aidan will send you a microwave.
We've added one more part to it to the game that spices it up a little bit. We realised that there's a popularity for card games as well. So one of the things we introduced into our game was things called Gift of the Gods cards.
All right, okay.
And what you do is it's the ultimate. Well, I say it's the ultimate. That's probably being a bit big-headed, but we believe it's a really good mechanism for balancing a game.
It's an equaliser.
Yeah, so they're good fun.
That just makes me think of Edward Woodward or Denzel Washington.
He was good in that.
Depending which
very
one
good
you
film.
Yeah. But it does ruin that joke about what happens if you take all the D's from Edward Woodward's name. He becomes Iwa Woowa. You can't do that with Denzel.
I've not heard that.
He only becomes Enzel Washington, which is rubbish.
Not as good.
So you equaliser. Sorry, you're in Tangent City, boys. You're in my town now. But it's good that I can remember equaliser cards. These equaliser cards. What did they do?
They're just a bit of fun. They are absolutely fun. Our game needs to be fun. So we've got, what you do is you build your own deck of cards. So in the box you'll get 60 of them with 2 of each, so 30 different cards, and you can build your deck. And the way that it works is that we know that some people have different incomes, different life circumstances. So what we kind of said was we wanted to release lots of these cards, and we thought, well, actually we don't want a typical gamer guy to come up, a power gamer, and say, I've bought all of the cards, I'm going to win as a result. So what we do instead is at the start of the game, you bring your deck along each, you place it down, you roll a d6, and the person that wins the roll-off chooses the deck that's used for the game.
And then both people draw from the same deck.
So, right, okay. So you're not yet okay. So this isn't a Magic the Gathering type scenario.
No,
somebody comes in and saying, "Well, I'm playing my ultimate rat-face destructo thermonuclear warhead card."
Exactly.
And you're just like that.
You have to think.
A land.
Because I'm coming at this from not a fully traditional, wargaming background. Everything that is in a game where I think that shouldn't work like that, or why is that overpowered, or there must be balance. I mean, I used to work for one of the biggest MMORPGs in the UK, and everything's about balance.
Yes,
so all the things that we don't like or we feel shouldn't be that way, we've gone almost like, aha, you thought you were smart by buying all the cards. Now, how do you like this?
How'd you like them apples?
Exactly.
But it also gives people a chance to play with cards they wouldn't normally be able to.
Yeah.
And they're fun little things as well, like and they're silly. So like like Mario Kart, you've got red turtle shells. Everyone hates it when you get a red turtle shell. So we've got a Gift of the Gods card that just sends red snails, around the board, and they just do damage. They ignore line of sight, and you just throw D3 red snails out, and they go and kill you. It's just childish stuff, and there's a childish theme to some of the cards. We've got some of the characters. I mean, we chatted to a guy last week, and he said to us, "We really like the fact that you've got a move called the clap." And he's like, "Is it the clap or is it the clap?"
Is it a visit to a doctor, or is it a mad round of applause? Well, it depends. Are you going into a room of doctors where you have to perform?
Absolutely.
It's all banter. We're trying to create the fun.
Yeah.
We're creating the fun.
Yeah, I guess that's one of as I say, when I go to the club, and that's not the club, but the club. If you go into the gaming room, which is like Ravenholm in Half-Life 2. We don't go to Ravenholm, and we don't go into the gaming room club. There's a lot of serious faces going about in the gaming room club. Yeah. And they've got these massive kind of 12-inch high models, and they've got their tape out, and there's not, you don't see... It's serious, and they're having fun, but it's concentrating really hard fun. They need to have a sit down afterwards when they've had lots and lots of that type of fun. So it sounds to me like you're trying to kind of break that open a little bit and inject a little bit more humour in there instead.
Definitely.
Yeah,
absolutely. And do you know what? One of the games, there was a game called Necromunda, and I used to play it with a good friend of mine. And you'd get down at eye level, and you'd be sort of shouting across the table, "Stop being a chancer! You can't see me. There's no way you can see me. Pack it in, mate. Come on now, stop it." But like I used to have a foosball table at my old company. And there was a house rule that if you were beaten 10-0, you had to run around the foosball table in just your pants.
Okay? The granny. The famous granny.
Oh, you know it. Good lad.
Yeah, we had the whitewash box at my old work for the football table, which was a genuine Daz box with white paper written around it. And if you got whitewashed, which is obviously a 10-0, you had your names and the date to put on it. And the whitewash box sits on your desk for all to see your insult.
That's absolutely fantastic.
We had that, and the problem when our foosball table was the end office in an open plan office, and there were 2 examples of it occurring. So we've said, because one of the things we want to do is we want to help with the longevity, to help with people get this game going, to help with people try and play it and meet new people. Part of our Kickstarter is going to give people, if we stretch, to a certain level, we're going to give people tickets, and we're going to set up a UK tournament for people to come along and play. And one of the prizes will be that if in one of the scenarios somebody gets all of the points and you get none, you will get a set of Purgatory Y-fronts.
That sounds fantastic.
But it's that banter, it's that little tiny bit of fun, it's that thing that sticks in the back of your mind, that thing that you remember. And you laugh with your friends about for 5, 10, however many years later. That's what we want to try and capture.
That sounds good. This sounds like it could be an expensive endeavour. Obviously we spoke about the Kickstarter is going to be coming out. I'm not sure at the moment when this particular episode is coming out. So we're not going to put a timestamp on it, but if people are listening and they say, this sounds really, really good, it sounds a bit different from what I normally play, what's the pricing going to be like?
So one of the hardest things to do is to try and give as much value as possible. We are 2 guys, and we're investing in this ourselves, and we're giving it some serious attention, but we're not one of these big companies that sort of uses Kickstarter as a sort of a pre-ordering system.
You've listened to some of our other shows.
There you go, there's the clue. But we don't want to do that. But instead we've tried our hardest to find value wherever possible. There's a mechanism that people seem to be applying in the industry, or people that are interested in Kickstarters and backing projects, where if you take the quantity of the box, or the quantity of the models, and you divide it by the number of models for the value. And if it's under a certain number, it's considered to be good. We've gone for a number of different things. So we have different stretch levels. There's a sweet spot. So for £65, you can get a really nice box with a really cool cover. It has a set of physical rules in there. We've listened to people. They want physical rule books. They don't want digital downloads. You get dice. You get tokens. You get one of the factions in there, the Soul Train in this example. And you also get 60 Gift of the Gods cards, all of the stat cards, and some lovely artwork for 65 quid. There is a Murder Inc. version, which is the other faction that we're starting with, but within that box you get a model that's 4 times the size. It's a Minotaur that's 4 times the size of any other model.
That's pretty cool. That's the Minotaur with the box, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So
Minotaur with the 4 arms, the box, and he's putting bodies into his oven.
Yeah, you got it.
That's the one. And then we've got a sweet spot.
I do look at notes and I do look at pictures and stuff before. I seem incredibly unorganised, but believe me, I'm just acting like a bumbling idiot. So you get that Minotaur, and how much is that going to go for?
So there's one where you get so the £65 is the Soul Train. Then there's a Minotaur box, which is Murder Inc., which is £80 because he's just that much more expensive. However, what we've done is by adding the value, we've said for £99 you can get 15 models. Yeah. The rules, the cards, the stat cards, everything you need to play a game against your friend, you get for £99.
Which compared again, if you're going back to your Games Workshop prices, that's not bad at all. That's really, really that's value. Decent value right there, yeah.
That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for the value.
We think so. We can't produce in plastic because the cost is astronomical by comparison. But we produce high quality models, and for a small company, we think that offers value. And then the thing that we've tried to do in the stretch goals is we've said, okay, what can we give you back? We are we have some firm grounding to us. So for example, our first model, Death, the lady with the scissors. We didn't make a decision at that point that every single model would have its own unique resin detailed base with each model. Yeah. But what we've said is that everybody who bought a Death, when that base has been produced, which is in the middle of now, we will send every single person that ordered a Death one for free.
That's pretty cool.
Because we want people to have the full model. Because there's no point in them having one model in their collection that doesn't have a unique base with it. Yeah. And we give stuff away as well. The Kickstarter's got, the stretch goals have got stuff where we give something away, and then we ask, if it stretches far enough, we've got more models. There's a total of 5 factions that can unlock in the Kickstarter itself.
I take it everything's going to be available after the Kickstarter.
Yeah, absolutely. We didn't want to have a limited edition model. We didn't do that. We had an event only model where we can decide what an event is, and it always gives people the opportunity to always get it. So there's no penalising. The only thing we're going to do is anybody who's been given a Kickstarter code because they've supported us at certain times throughout our progress, they'll get some Gift of the Gods cards that they can only get. But they're not game changing. They're not models that nobody else can get hold of. Yeah. We've done it so that everybody can get hold of something that they really want.
Yeah, this is my view and my view alone. Is that I'm not the biggest fan of Kickstarter exclusives. I think that they're a bit against somebody that wants to be involved in a campaign but maybe can't stretch that extra kind of £20-30. And especially with the way the exchange rate is, there's still the vast majority of Kickstarters out there come from the US shores. So I think, as we said on previous shows, that $100 kind of cool me in or not kind of game is now, rather than costing you £60-65, is costing you up to £85 now as well. So by putting those in place, and I guess saying to you, oh no, because you don't have enough money, you can't get access to this kind of special model. So that's good to hear that you've said you can get access. I take it that the models, whether they get unlocked or not during the campaign, you're going to be releasing those over a period of time as everything grows, yeah?
We certainly hope so.
Yeah, we've listened to people as well. You know, there were two examples of listening to people. We'd finalised our list and we talked to people about it, and we got a bit of feedback. The first one was, well, can we have a Murder Inc. box only rather than just a Soul Train box only? And we said, yeah, okay, why not? We'll do that, no worries. Mm-hmm. And then we had people say, well, you know, I like your game, it's cool, but I'm a painter. I want to buy just some of your models. So we've added a buy 3 for X option within the pledge as well, so that if they want to, people can just pick and choose. Yeah. The other thing that we've done to reward our loyal customers who've kept us going, you know, or got our progress to now, is we've said that if we fund, or when we fund, hopefully, if you've bought a model and you want to swap it out because you don't want to, we will entertain that. And with any unlocked models. If they say, look, I don't want the next faction that's unlocked, but I quite like that one model in there, and I bought this one previously, can I swap the two around? We'll say yes.
Because a number of the models obviously are available today.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got a fan base who already have got certain of the models that will be in the initial factions.
So yeah, you don't want them kind of getting... it's not doubles, it's not like collecting football stickers.
Yeah, swapsies.
Back at print. Oh, got.
Need.
Give me it. Oh, no.
How many
Games
swaps for a shiny?
Kind of yeah, exactly. Have you got the shiny thing? Yeah, I remember opening up a packet at primary school and having the Scotland badge because it was the World Cup 1986. And I got...
Nice.
Well, I already had the Scotland badge. So the offers that I got were just ridiculous, you know. And I said, no, Mr. Head Teacher, leave me alone. You can take your £10 back. No, that's another story. It sounds really, really interesting. I mean, I'm not a skirmishing guy myself. You know, this is not my bag. This is Colin's bag. Colin plays a lot of Frostgrave. He was playing Frostgrave, and this kind of sounds, to me, even looking at the models and the way you guys, what have you described tonight, it sounds interesting to me. It sounds something that, you know, I think it's always worthwhile checking out. I think any kind of Kickstarter that's coming out there is always worthwhile checking out, because you might end up enjoying something you didn't expect you were going to enjoy, except joyriding. Don't do that. Obviously, what we'll do is when the Kickstarter's launching in October 10th, which is a little while away, we will obviously make sure that is added to the show notes at the appropriate time. If people want to get in contact with you, if people want to find you, how do they get in contact with you? How do they have a look at Purgatory? What's the best way to do that?
There's lots of different things. We're quite active on social media. We have a Facebook page, so it's www.facebook.com/Purgatory Miniatures.
Okay.
We have a Twitter page as well, which is at Purgatory Minis. We have a website, which is www.purgatory-miniatures.co.uk. We have Instagram, and you know, we put a lot up. So like I paint the models, so I quite often share it around painting groups and whatnot. And we also have a sort of a closed group of people that we've let play test, and where we give advanced sneak peeks to people so they can have a little look. And anyone can request to join that if they want to, and become part of the Purgatory community. So. We're building it quite steadily. We have over 1,500 likes on Facebook now.
Cool. That sounds like a good little community ready to go when the campaign goes. As I say, when we release this episode, as soon as we know what the Kickstarter campaign link is, then we will make sure that it's added on to the show notes for people who are listening now. If you're listening now and it's after the 10th of October, if you scroll down and click on the show notes, there'll be a nice little link to Gary and Aidan's kind of Kickstarter campaign. So I'm speaking to people in the future, not people just now, but people in the future. I've just probably confused everybody. Listen, guys, thank you very, very much for coming on the show tonight. I appreciate you kind of coming on and spending the time talking to us. For everybody else, if you want to stay in contact with what we do, you can see us on Twitter at We're Not Wizards, facebook.com/We're Not Wizards. You can email us, which is magic@we'renotwizards.com and .co.uk, and you can see us on Instagram at We're Not Wizards as well. Now, the main thing is, though, that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, guys?
No, you're not wizards.
Fighting the battle between heaven and hell. But again, just thank you, Gary. Thank you, Aidan. We look forward to seeing the campaign. Best of luck with it. And we'll be certainly keeping an eye on this. Do you want to? I think so. From me, that's a goodbye from me. Do you want to say goodbye, Gary?
Goodbye, all.
Do you want to say goodbye, Aidan?
Goodbye, all, and join the war for heaven.
And it's goodbye from me. Good night.